Thank you for coming to this last part of the day after a long week. This for ALTE and colleagues in the Council of Europe, an important moment. We called it an ALTE resources panel, and that's not us. They're sitting here, they'll come up here in a minute. I promised this on the first day that we would be launching the revised version of our Manual for Language Test Development and Examining, which is often opaquely referred to as the MLTDE, or the manual. The problem with calling it the manual is there's also another manual. So we have to be clear what this one is. And I'm not, somebody said to me, there might be people in this audience who don't know what we mean by this Manual for Test Development and Examining. Is anyone like that here who hasn't seen it before or, or heard about it? At least one person, so that gives me the opportunity just to say a couple of words. I think I mentioned this, or it's come up in other panels. When the original draft version of the CFR came out in 1996, it was feedback suggested that there should be a range of additional documents to help users of the CFR to make use of the common framework. And there were documents for teacher training, for example, and documents for other things, and including something which was then called a guide for item writers, which is to help people write tests towards the levels. And the Council of Europe asked ALTE to produce that first document. So this was an old-style paper and pencil, sort of photocopied document originally, like many documents of that era. But then there were several iterations of updating it, and after the Blue Book came out, the Council of Europe invited ALTE to update that document and suggested the name, Manual for Language Test Development and Examining. So we have to blame the Council of Europe for the name. But it's 2011, and it was designed to work for people working alongside the other reference documents, and obviously the CFR itself. So that's the background. So 2011 was a long time ago. Oh dear me. We decided, how long ago we decided? About 5 years ago. Then there was COVID. So we decided we would like to update the manual, and we informed the Council of Europe we're going to do so. And today is the result of that collaboration. And I'd like to pass over now to hear the view from the Council of Europe on it.
Thank you very much, Nick. Good afternoon, everyone. And tünaydın in my own language, Turkish, because I'm originally from Turkey. And I would like to pick up on the challenge given by Graham earlier in the beginning of the conference. And I would like to say dobry wieczór, or dobry dzień. I hope I'm correct in Polish. And I also tried to learn the Korean version to say hello. Yoehunueya, completely wrong probably. Yohi. Annyeong. Annyeonghaseyo. So these are the two phrases I tried to learn and put into my language portfolio.
Excellent. Did you learn any sign language?
Not yet. I would love to. It's another step, another challenge.
I learned one sign. Do you know what it means? Cheers.
Ah.
Salut.
Very nice. And it's a privilege and an honor to address you today at the launch of the revised Manual for Language Test Development and Examining, which has been presented partly already, and it will be presented in detail by the authoring team. Before I continue my words on this important publication and our collaboration with ALTE, and leave the floor to the authoring team. Let me briefly introduce myself because this is my first time in an ALTE conference, and I'm meeting most of you for the first time. I'm finally putting faces to the email addresses or the names that I heard before. I'm Arzu. I work as a program manager for the language policy program.
Could you slow that down a bit?
Yes, I'm too quick.
Where's the first name and the second name?
Arzu is my first name.
Arzu, okay.
Burcu is my middle name. I love both. I use both. And Tunar is my family name.
So what do you like to be called?
Arzu is more international, I would say. It means desire. And Burcu is my mother's preferred name for me, so I really loved that name too. And in Turkey, it's easier to say Burcu, but when I use it in international environments, they usually say Burcu. So it's more difficult to get the right pronunciation.
Arzu is okay, though.
That's fine.
Arzu, okay, thank you.
And I've been working for the Council since 2011, so it coincides with the publication of the first manual. And but before I started for the Council, I worked as an English teacher to adult learners and mostly for proficiency purposes. So I helped them to achieve their desired proficiency levels. I think I taught for 16 years. And in parallel, I was an interpreter, simultaneous and consecutive, in various international projects. So it really gave me another skill. And in the end, in 2016, I came to Strasbourg as a project officer, and since then I've been working on different projects. I started with the projects on education for democratic citizenship and human rights education, which evolved into the reference framework for competences of democratic culture. And for the last 2 years, I've been working on the language policy together with Sarah Bresen, who was here before until this morning, and who gave the previous presentations, and who was supposed to be also here, but she had to leave early, so I'm talking on behalf of her. Coming back to the topic of this session and the lounge, I would like to start by stressing that this collaboration stands as a testament to our shared commitment to advancing quality, fairness, and innovation in language education across Europe and beyond. And as you heard earlier during the opening remarks by Nick and from some of the keynote speakers, as well as in the presentation by Sarah on the first day, the partnership between Council of Europe and ALTE is a long-standing one. For over 25 years, our joint efforts have shaped the landscape of language learning, teaching, and assessment. We worked on joint publications such as this one. We worked on assessment tools through the LAMI, LASLIAM assessment tools. We worked on translations of these tools. We had joint surveys on different years, and we are now embarking on a new cooperation for a new survey this year. We have been exchanging speakers for conferences, roundtables, and this is a very good example where the Council of Europe offered the patronage to this amazing event, which was really refreshing for me as well. And of course, ALTE has been a founding member of the ECMS Professional Network Forum. So when we come to the manual, much has changed since the first edition of this manual. We will be hearing more about these changes from the authoring team. We have witnessed a digital revolution, the rise of the artificial intelligence in assessment, and the profound transformation in the linguistic and cultural diversity of our societies. So the task of language education has never been more demanding or more essential. The revised manual is our collective response to the recent challenges. It addresses not only technological advances, such as automated marking, remote proctoring, and digital delivery, but also the evolving demands of fairness, data security, and the ethical implications of language certification. This manual is a product of exemplary international cooperation. ALTE, drawing on the diverse expertise of its member organizations, convened a working group that met regularly to produce the publication. And experts from the Council of Europe steered the process, and they came at a later stage into the picture, ensuring alignment with the broader policy instruments that we are developing and we have developed together again, such as the CFR, companion volume, and the recommendation on the plurilingual and intercultural education for democratic culture. The manual is freely available already on the ALTE website, I presume, and it will be made available immediately after this conference. We were waiting for this official launch, and we encourage the wide use of this very valuable resource. We would like to extend our sincere gratitude to ALTE and all the individual contributors to this work. Thank you for your ongoing partnership, your expertise, and above all, your commitment to the values that we share. And our cooperation will continue. And before I hand over to you again and to the authoring team, I also would like to thank the organizers of this conference, all the sponsors, and each and every individual that contributed to the making of it. It was a pleasure for me to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. I'm going to now pass over to the group of people sitting in the front row who are representing the authoring team, and they'll tell you about the process. I'd just like to recognize, though, the very important contribution of Dina Vilsu, who couldn't make it in the end here, who was took over the reins of this project and steered it for, well, up until now. So just thank you to her. I'd now like to pass over to Beate, Darren, Mika, Vincent, and Bert, all important members of the team. So thank you, and over to you guys. That's great, thank you.
So just testing. This is open. Very good. So we're now going to go on to give you a little more detail about what you can expect to find in the book and the way we worked to set it up. There are slides, yes. But I have to go over there to... What do I have to do to... Goodness. Technology, huh?
This is the main one.
The green button.
Is that what it looks like now?
Well, anyway, yes, that's in actual fact our first slide, so I don't need to do anything about it. Okay. My name is Beate Zeidler. Some of you may remember the kickoff meeting of our project, which took place just a little above 2 years ago. And at that time, I had the honor of coordinating the work. And I would have loved to go on doing that, but I fell ill, and I couldn't really do any work for about 1.5 years. So to our very good fortune, Dina Vilku stepped in, and with never tiring energy, pulled the project through to its culmination point, which is now that we have the book, which is actually already up on the ALTE website in the resources section. So if you like, check it out right now. Oh yes, and this link didn't work with my phone, but it will work with your phones. Okay, and it will take you directly to the manual, or the MLTDE, as I think we should call it, to make clear what we're talking about. Not the old manual, the real manual, but the manual for language testing and developing. So, yes, I would also like to give you the warmest regards from Dina, who, as you heard, unfortunately cannot be here today due to health reasons again. But she was looking forward to, and she was, of course, planning to attend here. So, yes, the work has been a common effort, a communal effort. We had organized the work in such a way that every chapter in the book, and there are quite a number of them, and also all the other bits and pieces, have a chapter manager who would coordinate the work again on their individual chapter. So in actual fact, we had a lot of working groups working parallel to come up with the book in the end. And that is what we have, the chapter managers, but also the working groups, plus, of course, we had 3 meetings at the conferences in Bad Homburg, Cardiff, and Peach to discuss with you what should be in the book, and in the later stages, what we had come up with so far. So this is really an effort of many, many people, more people than are going to be up on this stage. In fact, I think some or many of you may have been part of the project at some point, and I would like to thank you all, because without you, this would not have been possible. And I think that's what makes it special, because revising the manual is not just about pulling up a lot of updated information and putting it between the covers of a book, but it is about the process as well, not just the product. It is about discussion. It is about learning while discussing, and about perhaps enhancing and deepening our knowledge about the issues that are being treated in the manual. So that makes it a true ALTE product, and something I think we all can be proud of. Now, I pass over, as I said, chapter managers. Some chapter managers are here today, and we would like to talk about the chapters that they were in charge of. And I would like to pass on the word to Mika Hoffman of Michigan Language Assessments in the first place.
On this slide, you can see the old version and the new version, so you can see that we kept the same number of chapters. Most of them have the same titles. We did a lot with the appendices, but this just gives you a sense of changes at the glance. But what I really want to show you is the testing cycle, which is the organization of the whole book. Beate worked very hard and got lots of feedback, conflicting feedback, changes in feedback. But what we'd like to emphasize, one of the big changes, I think, between the versions was the idea of the testing cycle. It is a cycle, it's not linear, it goes round and round. So in chapter 1, which is fundamental considerations, we start out with what is a test and introduce the testing cycle, and we'll talk and how each chapter relates to it. So chapter 1 is fundamental considerations, same as before, but we had to do a lot of updating with part of the fundamental considerations, of course, is discussing the CEFR. With the new companion volume, we revised all that part so that we're now talking about profiles, and we're talking about the mediation and updates to how we conceive of the language model. So that's chapter 1. Also, one underlying principle that we had was now we have more resources out there. So the original chapter 1 had quite a piece on validity and reliability, but we found that the ALTE principles of good practice actually has a really good discussion on that, and we really didn't feel we needed to add a whole lot to that. So we pulled a lot of those out and are referring people to other things. So chapter 1 sets the stage, provides the diagram, talks about validity, references to other works, practical examples. We put more emphasis on, not more, but different emphasis on justice, fairness, those kinds of things in the more modern context. So that's chapter 1. I was the chapter manager for chapter 1. Chapter 2, Dina Vilku was the chapter manager. I also worked on it, so I'm also going to talk about chapter 2. So chapter 2 is about developing the test specifications. The changes there were, one of the things that has been a theme in this conference is the use of AI for developing test materials. So we talk about authenticity, genuineness, kind of the principles that underlie that kind of selection for chapter 2. The other thing to make note of in chapter 2 about that harmonizes with what we talk about in the conference, the old chapter 2 had a section on informing stakeholders, and the title of that section is now Relations with Stakeholders. So that kind of talks about how testing is seen as more of a joint venture. So that's chapter 2 in a nutshell. Chapter 3 was Fabiana Pica's chapter, and she can't be here either. She had a flight that had to leave earlier. So I'm going to talk about Chapter 3 briefly, because I also worked on Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is about assembling the test versions, putting the specifications into practice, the focus on process, trying to be agnostic about paper versus computer, different ways of doing quality control, quality assurance, revision. All of those things go into Chapter 3. So now I'm done with Chapters 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to pass it off to Vincent, who's going to do 4 and 5.
Thank you. So, Chapter 4 was about delivery of a test. What we have introduced is something very important. It's the multimodality of the examinations, which is a word that we are using a lot nowadays, because we have some paper-based examination, but we have some digital examinations, and we have some hybrid situation. So it was very important for us to distinguish the delivery of a paper and for the digital examinations. You will find some input about the delivery in a test center or at home. It's really a topic that comes from the COVID crisis. And now it's really what we are dealing with. The process of delivery has been revised, taking into account all this variety of delivery test, because it's a real change in our exams. You will find some inputs about the data protection, because it's really a new dimension in our examination. And you have some mention of GDPR. And you have a new input, a very interesting one. It's about the identification of the candidate. It was not in the previous version of the manual, and it was really needed to do that, because it's really what we are speaking about now, how to identify the candidates. Mainly what is happening is that we have a new dimension with security in our examinations. Chapter 5, it was about rating. So what we have done is mainly the same. Rating is still rating, it cannot change a lot. But the new dimension is about AI. So we introduced the technology for grading and rating. We have introduced a distinction between human and machine. Before we were just human, no need to claim that we are human, but now we have to claim that we are human. You will find some information about what you can do with transcription of speaking, the relevancy of performance corpus for AI training. So we were training before the raters, but now we are speaking about training the AI. So all the logic of a chapter is this one. We were training the rater, now we have to train the AI. How can we train the AI? And one dimension which is very important for me, and it is in the testing cycle, is that you have always to revise what you're doing. You never have to claim that your technology is good enough to face changes. So it means that monitoring, it's a key point in your examinations, and you really have to monitor your exams and to get the right level of information to understand if it's still relevant or not. Thank you. Bert, you. Was 6? Okay.
Thank you, Vincent. Be very quick, running out of time. So the appendix is about constructing a validity argument, and we had lots of discussion about this. What does it mean to create a validity argument? And we decided that it would be best for everyone if we produced or exemplified maybe some kind of good practice towards this. So we've introduced the minimum standards from the Q mark purely as an example of the fact that if you do and you answer or you submit documents, you're able to submit documents for all of the minimum standards, your test is in a good place. Your argument is in a good place, okay? Doesn't mean you have the Q mark, of course, but it just means that you're in a good place and it's a good guide for you to follow. So look at Appendix 1 for that. That'd be very interesting, just so you can see what you need to do. Okay, that's me. Bert? Yep. Stop. That's 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Don't worry, I only need 30 minutes. So, just from a bit of a technical point of view, what is the manual now? Well, it is a PDF. So it's a PDF document that will be available online on the website of ALTE. And if you can show the QR code again, you can download it. For your information, it was written by humans. We used AI just to do consistency checks, and that proved to be very helpful. We also used AI to create the glossary, and again to check for overlaps and inconsistencies in the glossary. And as I said, the format is a PDF. It's searchable, it's printable if you want, but I guess I should not have said that. You can search on it. There is a glossary, and a special thing, and that's maybe the last thing that I mentioned about the format, is that the words that are in the glossary, you will see they have dotted lines on it. So if you go with your mouse over it, you will see the glossary explanation in the text. That's it. Check it out and you'll discover it's a nice piece of work.